Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Karma Amos, and I'm honored to serve as the minister of the Unitarian Universalists of Central Delaware, and to welcome you to worship this morning. Whether it's your first time with us or attending our worship as part of your regular Sunday routine, we welcome you warmly. We're glad that you're here, and we hope that you'll find ample room in this community for your spirit. This weekend, we celebrate Pride in Delaware, and we're grateful today for the opportunity to welcome a special guest, Alex Kapitan. Alex is a lay community minister, educator, editor, consultant, and activist. Z is a trans and queer lifelong Unitarian Universalist, does interfaith LGBTQ work, and supports congregations as they are becoming places of radical welcome for all. Z is the co-founder of the Transforming Hearts Collective, the co-leader of the program Trans Inclusion in Congregations, and the founder of Radical Copyeditor, an anti-oppressive language project. Z lives in Western Massachusetts with her partner and a menagerie of furry and feathered friends. I hope that today you will welcome Alex with open hearts. We continue to be grateful for the technology that allows us to worship together online and to continue building community in other ways. Thank you in advance for your patience and grace with any delays or glitches we may experience, and special thanks to Sarah for being our Zoom tech this morning. In addition to our worship each Sunday at 10, we meet on Tuesday nights at 7 for a more informal time of check-in and sharing, sometimes some game playing, and we just invite you to consider joining us for that gathering. Now, by way of announcements today, I want to start by giving a very special thanks to all of those who volunteered in the UU Delmarva booths at Delaware Pride yesterday. A ginormous thank you to Alex Leclerc, who led our congregation's Pride team and who coordinated with volunteers from the 8 UU congregations in the Delmarva Peninsula. Alex did an amazing job, and we are so grateful for his project management and his artistic skills. Now, I want to give Alex a chance to name the members of his team and recognize the UUCD volunteers. So, Alex, if you would do that.
Thank you, Karma. I want to thank everyone who lent their energy to help provide a presence to the queer community leading up to and at the Delaware Pride event celebration yesterday. Your gifts in all forms, from your positive, loving thoughts, your knowledge and critique, your physical effort and strength, are all heartfully appreciated. We demonstrated that our community is a family, and the queer community were enriched by your commitments. I offer a humble apology first to any and all who provided support either in person, deed, or thought that I may miss in the following enumeration. A thanks to Wayne as liaison and to the broader UU community of the Delmarva Peninsula who provided financial support, as well as their volunteer presence at the event, including Charles, Larry, Mac, and Vivian. Thank you to our UUCD volunteers, Honey, Judy, Kevin, Kerry, Pat, and Sarah. Thank you to Yolanda and the Social and Environmental Justice Committee for their support. Lastly, and most importantly, to the phenomenal UUCD Pride Committee, a thanks to Dave, Kelly, Karma, Lindsay, Michael, Molly, Rick, Cheryl, Susan, Wayne, and John Boy for your friendship, camaraderie, and patience. Thank you all.
Thanks, Alex. And the last announcement, I want to remind you that we'll be honoring our saints in worship on October 31st, and I'd love for you to email me photos and details of the saints in your lives. So the ancestors, the heroes and sheroes, the friends, those who have left a positive impact on your life. And you can find more details about that in our e-blast or in our closed community Facebook group. And now, as we prepare ourselves for worship, I invite you to take a deep breath as we reaffirm our intentions to be a radically welcoming and inclusive community. And particularly today, as we remember during Pride, one of the reasons that it's so important that we provide this type of welcome every week and that we mean it. So whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you've been, whatever you've done, whatever your religious beliefs are or aren't, you are welcome in this spiritual community. However you move in this world, how much or how little is in your bank account or wallet, however you come feeling in these moments we share. You and all of who you are welcome in this spiritual community. We are all enhanced by being together. As we prepare ourselves for worship, let us begin with some gathering music. This is the song We Are by Dr. Isaiah Barnwell, which was sung by her and by the UU General Assembly Choir in 2020.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one.
Thank you for that. Thank you all so much for the warm welcome. Let's take another deep breath in and out. I'm so delighted to be with you this morning. Thanks again for the invitation to join you in your virtual sanctuary this morning. Here in this time when we're creating a virtual sacred space together, when we're gathering from different physical, spiritual, emotional, and ancestral locations, it feels important to locate myself and invite you to reflect on your location as well. I'm joining you today from my home near the Great Falls. I live where the river the Abenaki peoples called Quinnitagak, or Long River, meets the Mohawk Trail, in the place called Peskiamskut by Pecumtuck Nation and Greenfield, Massachusetts by white settlers, not far from that invisible corner where Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Hampshire meet. My ancestors have lived in this river valley and in eastern Massachusetts and in Wisconsin farmland and in the steel mills of Ohio, and before that, Germany, Hungary, and England. Their names were Capitania, Bergdorf, Daniel, Pierce, Orange. I come from preachers and farmers and engineers and artists and teachers. I have other ancestors and elders who have made it possible for me to be here today, too. As a queer and genderqueer person, I would not be here without generations of people before me who resisted oppressive norms of gender and sexuality and imagined a different reality into being. Feinberg, Murray, Kramer, Ginsburg, Roberts. And finally, I follow in the path of white anti-racism organizers, activists, and teachers. Braden, Liuzzo, Reeb, Woolman, Kelly Foster. As we gather together virtually, center ourselves, and pause to become fully present in this place together this morning, I want to invite you to join me in calling your ancestors into this space, those who forged a path that made it possible for you to be you. As I light our chalice this morning, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, bring these ancestors of yours into your mind and your heart. Thank you for that. Feel the power of all those souls that have brought each of us to this place. We are part of a larger fabric, held in a larger web and purpose. Let us worship together.
Please join us in our union affirmation. The words are in the chat box. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Our opening song this morning is Brave by Sarah Bareilles. This version is live from the Hollywood Bowl. You are invited to sing along in your own environment.
Each week at UUCD, we include a brief UU moment in our worship service that serves to make us aware of and to nurture our connection to the larger body of Unitarian Universalists and the Unitarian Universalist Association that binds us together. For our UU moment today, we want to highlight an organization called TRUST, Transgender Religious Professional Unitarian Universalists Together. TRUST was founded by Mr. Barb Grieve and Reverend Sean Parker Dennison in 2004 to support and advocate for trans UU religious educators and ministers, with the hope of one day expanding into an organization for all trans Unitarian Universalists. TRUST has provided trainings in transgender identity to the denomination's credentialing bodies, assisted in the settlement of trans religious educators and ministers in UU congregations, and worked with the UUA in improving trans-related health insurance coverage and introducing gender-neutral bathrooms at its annual General Assembly. Born out of commitment to the gifts, safety, liberation, and leadership of transgender people, TRUST envisions a spiritual awakening that transforms Unitarian Universalism through worship, pastoral care, theology, education, and community, to the end that trans-religious professionals and their ministries are thriving, and a new culture of solidarity and common purpose among Unitarian Universalists committed to countering intersecting oppressions is flourishing. TRUST's work to counter oppression includes, but is not limited to, dismantling racism, sexism, ableism, heterosexism, homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, classism, ageism, colonialism, and sizeism. To find out more about TRUST, visit www.transu.org. That's TRANSUU.org.
Rose wanted to say that she's a Zur, and Rose wants everybody to know that this is our time of joys and concerns. And she wants you to know that she's listening, and she wants you to know that she's concerned for all the things that go on in your lives, all the things that you care about, all the things that you need others to know about. That if you share with us, light a candle, show us what you need, tell us what's going on. Let us understand who and where things are in your life, because we're concerned. We know you're there and we're here for you. It's that time to bring it together, to share our lights, to bring our light more importantly or less importantly, however you want to reach out to each other. It's in your heart, in your mind, in all the things around you. And Rose is listening. She wants to know how you're doing and how things are in your home, in your life, in all the things you're concerned about, joy or tragedy. It doesn't matter to Rose. She cares about you and what's going on in you. When you see the light come on with other people, change to gallery view. They'll be there. Mute yourself, unmute yourself, do those things. That's always tricky, but it's a good thing to do. And it's something that can help everybody. That we're saying to all of you that we light this candle for those who are not here with us, who are in our spirit and in our hearts. And we light this to let you know that we're all together and we all care. Is that it? Okay. Bye.
As Unitarian Universalists, a central part of our worship in person and online is the opportunity we all have to practice the art of generosity and the spiritual practice of gratitude. Our gifts to our congregations are what allow our communities to live into our calling and mission. We are grateful to you for the many ways you support our community, including your financial pledges and offerings. Your gifts matter, and it's one of the ways that you make the world a better place. Thank you for your passion and your generosity. For those who are making pledges or who want to contribute to UUCD, please visit www.uucd.org and click on Support UUCD for more information about how to donate online. Our offertory for today is This Is Me by Benj Pasek and Justin Paul. This version was recorded live by the Boston Gay Men's Chorus.
Broken heart.
Our reading this morning is entitled A Poem About Being Yourself, Come What May. It's by Jennifer Williamson. I am learning to say thank you, even to those wretched things. I am learning to release this need to stay small and guarded in my own tiny fortress. I'm going to find out how loudly I can sing the songs that are trapped inside of me. There are gifts I need to discover. I am learning that when it's beautiful inside, it's beautiful outside too. There is stuff stored inside, deep inside of me, that no longer mine to hold. I will be bold enough to see it, unmask it, let my own mask fall to the floor. I can make this world inside of me a world worth living for. I'm going to find out that there's so much more beauty inside than I have ever given myself credit for. I'm trying to say thank you to those things that make me feel small. They've awoken me to this place of newfound strength, after all. I'm finding my strength. I'm not building walls anymore. I let the rivers run through me so I don't crumble trying to resist every blow. The struggle is not mine to keep today, not mine to wait for tomorrow. If I can learn to let go of what goes on inside of others, I can begin the transformation of growing what's beautiful inside of me. I'll stop standing in my own way now. I'll start working with every side, wretched and divine. My resistance has only been blocking my ability to fully be who I came here to be. The world outside of me cannot hit my wounds, cannot tear down my walls and bring me down too. I'm already dismantling my false protections, one rock at a time. I redefine who I came here to be, what I came here to see. I am open and the rivers rush through me. The winds blow fiercely, not because they wish to uproot my life, but because their power serves mine. My roots grow deeper and my wings stretch out. There is nothing that can make me doubt all that I am here to be. I'm learning to say, thank you for everything. Thank you for this lesson in sight. Thank you for showing me my own might. Oh, thank you for telling me that nothing can't be done. I'm thankful now for knowing I am the one I have been waiting for my whole life.
Thank you for that, Michael. And thank you all for sharing what's on your heart today so that we can all hold it together, the joys and the sorrows. I want to thank you all again for the gift of getting to visit you virtually this morning and the chance to celebrate Delaware Pride together. What a joy it is. I've been a Unitarian Universalist for 30 years, ever since my parents joined my home church in Milwaukee when I was 6. This is the kid my parents brought to church with them 30 years ago. The Little Mermaid had recently come out, and I was instantly obsessed. This ingenious Halloween costume made for me by my mom quickly became a year-round outfit. I used to sit in our front yard, imagining the amazement of all the people driving by at the sight of a mermaid so far from the water. We took a road trip to visit my great grandmother and her Ocean View cottage in Massachusetts. And I distinctly remember the lengths my mom had to go to convince me not to wear my tail all the way there and quickly throw myself onto one of the glorious rocks in front of my great grand's cottage before she came outside to greet us. You'll give her a heart attack, she said. She'll be too surprised to see a mermaid in her yard. But what really made me the Little Mermaid in my mind and my heart was not the outfit, but the music. I memorized all of the songs and sang them everywhere, including at church. Legend has it that it was my earnest belting of Part of Your World in the lower level at all hours that inspired the music director at my home church to start a kids choir. 1990 marked the year that both The Little Mermaid and the 1960 Broadway production of Peter Pan, starring Mary Martin, were released on VHS. These two musicals are the backdrop of my early childhood. I was mesmerized by both title characters. My very favorite childhood memory was my Peter Pan themed 7th birthday party, to which all of the guests had to come in costume. I was Tinkerbell, wearing yet another magical outfit creatively crafted by my mom, and I downright forced my best friend to come as Peter Pan. In true to Broadway fashion, my dad played a Captain Hook to rival Dustin Hoffman's and chased us all around the house and yard for hours. It was heaven. I was deeply blessed to have parents and a church that gave me complete and total freedom of expression. No one ever told me I wasn't a mermaid or a fairy. No one ever tried to hush my song. Those first 7 years of my life were full of magic brought to me through art and books. I was a rough and tumble princess who loved bugs and dinosaurs and dresses that could be twirled in. All of my best friends were boys, and I was the ringleader. No, really, I literally played the ringleader in a circus production in kindergarten. It wasn't until 3rd grade that things changed, that the fairy tale world that I invited everyone around me to join me in every day was challenged. That was the year that the other kids on the playground started letting me know in no uncertain terms that I wasn't following the rules of being a girl. You see, I was able to have a carefree childhood because everyone assumed I was a girl. After all, I wore pigtails and princess dresses, excuse me. I don't know what a pigtail dress is. I wore pigtails and princess dresses. So the adults in my life never picked up on my gender nonconformity, but it was only a matter of time before my peers did. I started 3rd grade in love with life and with school. But by the end of the year, I had lost my spark. I'd always thought of everyone as my friend, but now lines were being drawn, and I didn't understand any of the rules. No longer could I wear the frilliest dress I wanted every day and run with the boys without being sneered at and mercilessly teased for both my excessive femininity and my apparent masculinity. So I made a conscious choice to try to follow the gender rules I didn't understand. I turned my back on my best friend, joined a crew of girls, tamped down the fairy tale part of myself, and tried to fit in. But it just made me more miserable. My new friends cooed over New Kids on the Block and had posters of Justin Taylor Thomas on their bedroom walls. They played games that revolved around things like marriage and motherhood. Far from being able to fit in, I only felt more and more like a square peg in a round hole. My parents came through for me. They didn't know why I was miserable, but they had a sense that if I stuck with the same group of kids and the same school system, things wouldn't get any better. So they gave me the chance to go to a middle school for the arts across town. And once again, my life had creativity and vibrancy. I still felt adrift, but I slowly carved out a space among other misfits. It would be 10 years before I would be able to reclaim my authenticity and rediscover the unbridled joy and fabulosity of my 6-year-old self. But honestly, 10 years of seeking and becoming feels pretty darn lucky to me. As a genderqueer, non-binary person who grew up with no sense that there were other people out there who weren't girls or boys, no representations of people like me beyond Mary Martin as Peter Pan. I found a way anyway. I found people who saw me as I truly am, loved me for my contradictions and fairy tale nature, and reflected who I was back to me when I was racked with doubt. I found more music and kept on singing, slowly journeying back to myself. The popular mainstream story of what it means to be trans is one of absolutes and pain. The visceral hidden knowledge of who you are from a young age, the unspeakable suffering of being forced to live as someone you're not, the agonizing decision to tell the world who you really are, the transition that marks a closed door on the past and the emergence of the real, true you. This story isn't wrong. It is many people's story, but it's not the only story. It's certainly not my story. My story is a story of a lifelong journey and dedication to living authentically. It's a story of constantly exploring, questioning, and becoming myself. It's a story of being a mermaid and a fairy and a boy who never grows up. And it's a story of knowing who I'm not long before I could articulate who I am. But ultimately, it's a story of joy. Every single day now, I get to make an active choice to be my fullest, most glorious self, the self I was made to be. And I am here to testify that when you have been told by the world that who you are is impossible, who you are doesn't exist, and you laugh and say, "Oh, honey, does it look like I don't exist to you?" That feeling, the feeling of knowing yourself and being yourself despite it all, is the best feeling in the world. It makes me feel like I can fly. My best friend, Michael, who is a queer and trans Black man and an ordained minister, talks about how he was called to be the person he is. Who I am right now is who I am called to be, he says. I don't know how or when that happened, and I can't explain it, but I know that it is true. And so I move toward that call every day in all the ways that I can. When I think about pride, I think about how meaningful it is to take pride in who you are when the cultures and systems surrounding you have tried to mold you to be someone else. How meaningful it is to take the risk to live authentically, to be authentically you, the most you version of yourself, the you that you are called to be. You see, there's a spark in each of us, not just trans people, but all people, that refuses to go out no matter what the world throws at us. There's something that pulls us forward and compels us to be who we are meant to be. When we live from that place of authenticity, that's when we truly come alive. And when we are truly alive, we bring that aliveness forward in everything we do. All of our relationships, our work, our activism, our art, our play. In her absolutely incredible book, Redefining Realness, Janet Mock, a Black and Native Hawaiian trans woman, writes, self-definition and self-determination is about the many varied decisions that we make to compose and journey toward ourselves, about the audacity and strength to proclaim, create, and evolve into who we know ourselves to be. That's what transition actually means. Transition doesn't mean surgery or hormones or pronouns. It means journeying toward ourselves. Transition doesn't mean changing genders. In the words of Janet Mock again, it means revealing who we've always been. For me, journeying toward myself and revealing who I've always been was a process of reclamation. It was a process of rejecting the rules and the boxes and the limits that were placed on me by our wider culture. Everything I was forcibly taught about who I was supposed to be and how I was supposed to act based on who the world perceived me to be. I wonder, what have you been taught about who you are supposed to be and how you are supposed to act based on who the world has perceived you to be and based on what the world thinks of as the most normal and valuable ways to be? I think of my grandmother, Lee Kapitan, who was at the top of her high school class, but was passed over for a college scholarship because she was a woman. I think of my dear friend Lynn Young, who was socialized to be and act white and ignore the Lakota heritage and identity buried inside. I think of all my friends who have been told to hide their queerness or their disabilities or their class background in order to fit in. Living by other people's definitions and perceptions shrinks us to shells of ourselves rather than complex people embodying multiple identities, says Janet Mock. But every day, we get to make a choice about who we are going to be. Every day is a chance to proclaim, create, and evolve into who we know ourselves to be. Every day is an opportunity to access the joy in living authentically. Now, don't get it twisted. Living your most visible, authentic life doesn't mean you have to tell everyone you meet every single facet of your life story and history, right? And I don't want you to think that just because I chose to share a little about my 6-year-old self today, you're entitled to know the childhood story of every trans person who crosses your path. My vulnerability in sharing that adorable little self that I was with you comes from a place of wanting to share more about who I have always been. Sharing with you some of the fullness of my sparkly, gender overflowing, non-binary self helps you see the real me, my authentic self, rather than assuming that I'm a man simply because I'm currently sporting some fabulous facial hair. I don't need to share anything with you in order to be my full self, because I know who I am and live fully from that place of truth. My partner, Teddy, would just as soon move through the world without anyone knowing that he was assigned female at birth. He is living his most visible, authentic life as a man. Being a woodworking, blue-collar, kind and gentle man is how he comes most alive and shares his aliveness with the world. Every day, he gets to decide what kind of man he's going to be. Authenticity is about the joy that comes from being himself, not the shock factor of telling people he's trans. Does that make sense? You don't owe anyone any explanation about what has led you to your truth. You only owe yourself the chance to live from that place of truth. There's a relatively new term that has taken off among young trans and non-binary folks. It's gender euphoria. Have you heard it? Isn't it wonderful? It describes the flip side of gender dysphoria, that sense of wrongness in your own skin. Gender euphoria is the sense of profound rightness and joy that comes with being your true self. Folks will say things like, OMG, my mom finally called me by my chosen name and it made me feel so euphoric, or these heels make my gender so happy today. I want everyone to experience that kind of joy. Every single person, the joy that comes from living authentically. What is it about this culture that we live in that trans people are only affirmed as real through the avenue of our deepest pain and suffering? For decades, the gatekeepers of this society have said, I'll only believe that you are who you say you are if you can prove to me that you'd rather die than live as the person I perceive you to be. What if we honored each other's joy more than each other's pain? What if we said, I see and validate you because I recognize your gender euphoria, rather than needing a person's gender dysphoria to get so bad that the only last ditch option for survival is acknowledgement of who they truly are? Pride was born out of a riot. Pride was born when people who had been pushed to the margins of society, trans women of color and drag queens and homeless queer youth, refused to be policed, pathologized, and put down. When they fought back, it incited an entire new era of people demanding the right to live openly and authentically without fear, without violence, without oppression. Every year we celebrate Pride to remind ourselves that the fight is ongoing, and that we will meet it with joy, euphoria, authenticity, resilience, thriving. Trans people are a model for all of us of the joy in living authentically. Each and every person has a homing beacon, and that homing beacon is joy. The voice that calls us to be our most authentic, joy-filled, euphoric selves that brings us most alive. On this day, I want to invite you to consider who you are called to be. To what wholeness are you called? What parts of yourself have you hidden away, buried, boxed because of the expectations or perceptions of others? What would it look like if you let them shine? Every day we have a choice. My commitment to living authentically is to choose joy. I hope you will too. Amen. Ashe. Aho. And blessed be.
Thank you so much, Alex, for sharing with us vulnerably and fabulously and sparkly and wise. I hope that we will all, as we leave this worship today, continue to gather up the sparkles of wisdom that you have gifted us with today, that they might encourage us throughout the week as we continue our own journeys towards authenticity and joy. Our closing song this morning is Return Again. It's a meditation song about that journey of coming back to the home of your soul, that homing place that Alex was talking about. So the questions that Z gave us at the end of that reflection, think about those as we sing this chant together. So I invite you to sing along with me in your own environment as you really think inwardly about your truest self and the gift of who you are. Let's sing together. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return born and reborn again.
Hmm. Hmm. What a perfect song to end with. Thank you so much, Reverend Karma. It is my duty to help us extinguish this chalice this morning. And we've got some words to do that you can help me with that are in the chat right now. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
And our closing words this morning are from Reverend Teresa Soto in a poem called "To the People Who Have Mistaken Freedom for Liberation." And they write, "To be free, you must embrace the breadth of your own existence without apology, even if they try to take it from you. You must know not that you can do whatever you want. You are not a kudzu vine eating entire hillsides for the purpose of feeding your own lush life. You must know instead that inside you are entire universes, milky blue, magenta, and gold, expanding. But to actually be free, you must know and you must fight for the entire universes inside of everyone else. Being free is not a license, but a promise. Go from this place, free, liberated, blessed, and at peace, and ready to fight and promise to work for those things for everyone else. Thank you again to Alex Kapitan for blessing us this morning during the service of pride. Our virtual worship has ended, but our connection to one another and the earth endures and grows stronger. Go blessed to be a blessing for others.